Hi, I'm Millie Swan, Executive Business Strategist and Heart-Based Leadership Mentor to CEOs, business executives and people who are specialists at what they do and just happen to be in business. Congratulations, you've made it to the first video. It really tells me that you really are over where you're at and you're looking for some answers in your business. The steps that we're going to teach you really are 5 very key foundation steps that allow any business of any size really to start to move forward. I've used this process for startups right through to running $100 million businesses, and they are just so foundational, and I'm really delighted to be able to teach you my way and really the most simple way of doing business that gets great outcomes. This is the first step video that we're going to teach, and it's about the rule of W. And what I want to do is show you how you can use this tool as a very first step of taking stock of where you're really at in the business and really understanding what's really important for you, because we need to align yourself back to what's required from your position. Often businesses are chronic people pleasers, and we need to ensure that it is your intention and where you want to take the business which is what drives it forward. The rule of W helps you to uncover what that's all about. There's a PDF here, so I'd love you to download the PDF of the simple processes that we use here. It's a one-pager, and it'll help me to show you how we can go through that process today. This tool really gives you the clarity about what's most important. I'm going to teach you this because it's how you work out what you really want, and then you get the outcome. Sometimes it's called the be, do, have process. It's a really great idea, but how do you really do it? And so the B is really how you behave, and what's really, for you to really understand what's important for you. What's your intended outcome? What behavior do you need to have? The do is a little mini action plan about the steps that you need to take, and really about what's most important and what's not what you don't need to be doing. And then the have is how you get the outcome you intend. So the rule of W will teach you how to get massive clarity and then really to understand how to get what you want, and also what you need from your position, from what you need most, instead of being in a constant reactive mode. It's a questioning and answer tool, and that includes really also a key part which often people forget is how to get an outcome and when are you going to get it done by. So basically it's really a risk management tool. It's something I found, I uncovered 25 years ago and have used it ever since. Essentially, we really want to know the questions, and sometimes we have the answers, but sometimes the answers are discovered through this constant questioning process. So let's just go through the process now and see what comes up for you. There is a PDF, so I hope that you've printed it off and you've got it with you. And we're going to ask you really now to ask yourself honestly, what's the biggest challenge you have right now, either in your life or in your business? Really, what is the biggest challenge? And it's the top question on the PDF. It's the first question that I'm asking you. I want to take a few minutes and just don't overthink it. Really quickly, just the first thing that comes to mind. Write down now, what is your biggest issue? The other questions that we'll be asking are why, where, who, when, and how. Not all the questions are equally important. Some things, depending on the issue, are more important than others. Sometimes the why is more important. Sometimes who's involved is more important. Just for now, I want you to take a minute and write down what is your biggest challenge right now for you. Is it something in your business or is it something in your personal life? Give yourself a minute. Just allow it to come up. Just don't take too much time. Don't overthink it. Allow it to come up. What we'll find is that what often happens is the problem is just a symptom of really what's going on. It's not really what the issue is. So understand what that is for you right now, the first thing that comes to your mind. So now you've identified your question. I want to show you how we go through this whole process and really to explain to you how one of my clients resolved a major challenge that he was having with the overwhelming growth of his business. We just actually resolved this today using exactly the rule of W. And really later on you can go through this process yourself. But watch how Gary did it. Gary has a service-based business and he's in a niche market in the construction industry. The business is growing rapidly. His major frustration at the moment was that he couldn't finalise a deal that he had to buy out another family business. He was just so frustrated with the delays. So that was his what? Massively frustrated with the delays about not finalising a deal. He was at the point where he's about to walk away from it. And, you know, we also had to decide, is it worthwhile going forward or worthwhile, you know, just walking away? So we went through this process and this showed him how his frustration could be better channeled and how he could get the outcome of what he wanted. So his frustration, remember, was just that he couldn't get the deal done. The delays were constant and it was driving him mad. So why was he frustrated? Well, he was running around because he had no time because the business was massively growing and he felt like he was just not getting anywhere and it was just chaos for him. So that was really why was he feeling the frustration, because he couldn't make progress. He was wanting to merge the business into this existing one that he already had, and he wanted to buy out the other family members, and emotions were really high on both sides. So that's who's involved. He's involved and the family members involved of the other business. And they all get along really well, but he could see how it was going to go off the rails if the emotions weren't managed by both parties, his frustration, and really not getting clarity around what the issues were for the family members. So that was his who's involved. So what we decided to do was we'd book a meeting and we'd get everyone together. And that was really essentially the how. We're going to book a meeting and get everyone together so we could discuss it. When were we going to have that meeting? Well, it's going to be on Friday. And where is that meeting going to be? Well, it's going to be at the head office. And those two things very quickly started to form a little action plan about what's going to happen and when. What they really wanted to do was understand how to get an outcome. So if they put all these other pieces in place, what was it they really trying to achieve? Well, the purpose was to get at least an agreement and a timeline about what would happen and when it would finish. For Gary, it was really important to at least have a timelined agreement for the first stage by the end of February. And so then he could really roll out the other steps to have the two businesses merged really about the end of April. These guys have been talking about it for months and months and months. And really, that's all it was. And really, the heat had gone out of it for everybody. So they needed to either decide to go forward or not. These are the simple questions that we had to really understand what was going on. One of the key challenges that he had was who was going to manage the emotional meeting. And so we worked out we needed kind of an intermediary type of person in the business, someone who understood both sides of the two different businesses. So we agreed on the business development manager. The business development manager was aware of the deal, he knew all the parties, but he wasn't really politically aligned to anyone. He understood how both sides of each of the parties needed to get agreement. They were sort of all saying, yes, we want to go forward, but there was never a timeline agreed to. Never a timeline. So who was going to be that person that was going to make this little next step of the action plan happen? And the business development manager was the person who was decided. And that then gave Gary a simple plan to get all the parties together in a room to really understand this is the timeline for agreement. From that process, all he needed to decide was when did he want a final agreement to happen for everyone, a written agreement, and he decided on the end of February. So you can see that immediately he had a simple action plan. He knew who all the players were. He understood what the issues were. Initially, he was just really frustrated because he couldn't get anything going, but he couldn't sort of get any agreement, but he didn't really have a plan of how to go forward with it. So by using this tool, we were able to identify an independent person who knew enough about both businesses who was respected by both parties, to then start to take some actual steps to remove Gary's frustration about this. We actually also took this to the next level, and we actually discussed very much with Gary if they got agreement at the meeting on Friday, what would be his next step. And so he was able to use the rule of W very quickly to understand what he wanted to get that would satisfy everyone. Gary's a chronic people pleaser, and he's a great businessman, but sometimes he's too hard. He's trying to please everyone too much. And so when there isn't clarity around really what the issues are, which for him was massive frustration and a high awareness about the emotional challenges around merging a family business into his existing corporate business, he was caring, and he really wanted to care about the people that were coming into the business and the merger. But how did he take himself out of that picture, and how did he get what he needed? So we then did go back through the rule of W and understand for him two things. What would happen if he didn't go forward with this, and what would happen if he did? And really, the most important thing for him is that on Friday, he has some idea about whether this is going to go forward or not. And he would get agreement, and he would also be completely taken out of the process for the next 2 or 3 months of getting all the other information done, of dealing with a few different issues that people would have around the merger. It's a really great tool. Don't overthink it. We just use simple one sentences to answer each of the questions that were really, really driving him nuts and exhausting him. So these are the kind of things that I want you to do too. So I've explained how Gary used the tool, and then he kept taking it up and up a level. So here's some homework for you. I've asked you, what's your biggest challenge? What's really going on for you? Sometimes it's really hard to uncover. But by going back through these questions and keep asking yourself until the question comes up, well, then you can really uncover where the gap is, and usually in that gap you'll find that's where the clue is. Sometimes the how to progress can be a little bit interesting because you often need outside ideas, but if you at least identify really what's going on and why it's such a challenge for you, you can start to ask yourself these easy questions. Keep at it. Sometimes you have to go back around a couple of times, like Gary did, to really understand what the challenge was. The challenge for him was he needed to be taken out of the picture. He wanted an outcome, and he was tired of all the stuffing around. So really, the issue for him was the project wasn't progressing, but it was him that needed to be taken out of the picture as well. He needed some help. And as soon as we got clear about that, it all fell into place for him. Really, that's what I want for you. I want you to understand how easy this can be. Asking yourself what and why are often the two most important things. The where, the when, the who's involved, and the how you're going to make things happen. Those answers will come. The more you keep questioning yourself, the more you keep asking these constant simple questions. We're going to be sending you the rule of W shortly, and so please use this for absolutely everything. It can help you identify why you're not getting clients, where clients should be coming from, all sorts of things, cash flow issues, what's happening with your staff, when really you think it's one thing, but if you go through this and you follow and answer all these questions and go back around again until you get massive clarity, very quickly, very simply, you'll be able to know when you'll be able to have to take action and who's going to be involved and who can help you. All sorts of really great ways of using this tool. If you're really, really stuck and you want to go, really need some help with it, I ask you that there is an opportunity really for you to take a consult with me and book in, and there's a link here for you to do that. It's a pretty limited opportunity as I'm very full at the moment, but there are a couple of places left. So I know that when people come and do this process with me, that it's absolutely transformative for their business and their lives. It helps them to get very unstuck, and it helps them to get really clear about what the issues are, so they're not wasting time, money and energy. And my ability to get clarity around that is second to none. It's why every one of my clients get fantastic outcomes. So if you're feeling stuck, I urge you, contact me, and I will look forward to giving you some of my time to help you out.